The more screens you put in a car, the slower and more dangerous it becomes to use. A Swedish magazine proved it in an experiment. The driver of a new model covered almost 1,400 meters while performing basic touchscreen tasks, while in an older car with buttons, just 300 meters was enough. We love futuristic dashboards without clutter, but the data says otherwise. So why are physical buttons disappearing en masse, and who's rushing to bring them back? Touch interfaces deprive drivers of tactile feedback, forcing them to take their eyes off the road. In chasing the digital, automakers complicated the simple, and now some admit it was a mistake. Not covered, niche cases, like touch sensitivity door handles or voice control. By buttons, we mean any physical control that you can feel without looking: keys, knobs, switches. 1986. In the US, the Buick Riviera Coupe gets the world's first in-car touchscreen. 2001. BMW introduces iDrive, one controller instead of 100 buttons. 2023. Volkswagen Group announces physical buttons are coming back after a wave of criticism towards touch panels. So, for over 30 years, the auto industry has been trying to digitize car controls. And now we're watching the pendulum swing back. The clumsy first attempt. Buick Riviera, 1986. Context. Buick, the American luxury brand, launched the futuristic Graphic Control Center, a touchscreen straight out of a sci-fi for the 80s. Period reviews praised its ability to control climate and radio through a touchscreen with a whopping 32,000 words of memory. Why it matters? Customers hated it. The menus were confusing, the screen distracting, and by 1990 the system was quietly dropped. Ahead of its time and paid the price. BMW thought they had the smarter solution. The flagship BMW 7 Series lost its forest of buttons, replaced by a single rotary dial and a layered menu system. Journalists counted nearly 100 buttons in the older 7 Series, and iDrive was pitched as salvation from this chaos. The result was divisive. The first iDrive forced drivers to dig through endless submenus. Owners fumed, calling it insanely confusing and dangerously distracting. Meant to simplify, became the most hated interface of the decade. But other brands still rushed towards the touchscreen future and burned themselves too. 2011. Ford, MyFord Touch. By the early 2010s, touchscreens hit the mainstream. Ford's Edge crossover dropped most buttons in favor of a touch panel and voice menus. Early customers were shocked. Where's the volume knob? Ford quickly admitted this misstep. In updates, they brought back real buttons and knobs to MyFord Touch. Proof that even everyday drivers weren't ready to sacrifice usability for high-tech looks. Turns out people didn't want an iPad on wheels. They wanted to blindly grab a volume knob. Premium brands weren't immune either. Cadillac stripped away physical controls, replacing them with the sleek CUE panel featuring haptic feedback. It looked gorgeous, but it was a nightmare to use with slow responses and hard-to-hit buttons without looking. Cadillac got slammed by both press and customers. Result? By 2016, with new models like the CT6 and XT5, Americans quietly reintroduced knobs for climate control, ditching the awful touch sliders. Even Cadillac had to choke back its own song and bring back old-fashioned knobs because luxury also has to be convenient. And the Japanese? They fell into the same trap. Honda, 2014 to 2017. In the mid-2010s, Honda removed the physical volume knob in the new Civics and CR-Vs, replacing it with a touch-sensitive strip. Customers in the US and Europe were furious. Something as simple as adjusting the volume had become awkward. Honda publicly admitted the mistake. In the 2017 CR-V, a proper volume dial returned in place of the infuriating touch slider. A press release quote read, "Our customers made it loud and clear. They want a real knob, and we brought it back." A rare case where a company openly responded to customer backlash by changing designs so quickly. One small circle, millions of happy drivers worldwide. Meanwhile, other brands were racing towards a fully touch-only interior. Tesla set a new trend, an interior almost completely without buttons. The Model 3 didn't even have a traditional instrument cluster. All info and controls were pushed to the central touchscreen. Tesla went further than anyone on the Model 3. Even the wipers and headlights are controlled through on-screen menus, while the updated Model S lost its turn signal stalks altogether. Many competitors rushed to strip interiors bare as well, thinking this was the new standard of high-tech design. The car became a giant gadget, great for a showroom's wow factor. But suddenly, the driver had to be an IT specialist behind the wheel. For a while, it seemed there was no turning back, until the big automakers themselves started sounding the alarm. 2023. German giant VW, Volkswagen. Overwhelmed by complaints about touch panels in models from the Golf to the ID series EVs, made a public confession. VW's design chief, Andreas Mint, declared, "We will never make this mistake again. Steering wheels will once again have physical buttons. No guessing, there's feedback, it's real, and people like it. Honestly, this is a car, not a phone." VW also promised the return of knobs for climate, volume, and hazard lights across future models. This was the first time a major automaker openly called the all-touch interface a mistake and pledged to never do it again. If Volkswagen itself says a car is not a smartphone, then the touchscreen party has clearly gone too far. And they're not alone. The whole industry is rethinking its values. Even designers are admitting the problem. In the new flagship Hyundai Ioniq 9, the Koreans kept a large central screen but duplicated key functions with physical buttons and knobs. Hyundai's chief designer said openly, "This is about safety. When your hands are on the wheel, driving into menus is dangerous. While driving, you need to feel the control without distraction." His colleague added, "All main functions must be tactile. That's our approach across all models." This is a major brand taking the side of ergonomics over blind tablet worship. When even designers start talking about tactile feedback and human scale, it signals a coming return to balance between digital and analog. And what's next gets even more interesting. 3 reasons buttons disappeared. 1. Aesthetic and fashion. Designers chase the clean, minimalist cabin, inspired by smartphones. 2. Cost-cutting. Eliminating hardware buttons was profitable. One screen is cheaper than dozens of switches and can be updated by software. 3. Tech optimism. Marketing claimed touch solutions were more intuitive, and that voice assistants would replace buttons. In practice, this rarely worked out. 3 consequences for drivers and the market. 1. Reduced safety. Simple tasks became distracting. The boom in giant screens coincided with more distraction-related crashes, hence new rules limiting in-motion features. 2. User fatigue. Satisfaction ratings dropped. Surveys show people complain about clunky infotainment more than anything else. This kicked off the counter trend. Automakers now market ergonomics as a selling point, everything at your fingertips. 3. Search for balance. The industry realized extremes are harmful. The future lies in a hybrid approach, large screens combined with essential physical backups, like climate knobs or steering wheel buttons that you can feel. Takeaway for viewers. Progress isn't always a straight line. In cars, gadgets should serve you, not distract you. Demand convenience from technology. Sometimes the good old button is safer than the trendiest sensor. Next time, we'll tackle another controversial trend: touch-sensitive door handles. Why are traditional handles disappearing? And what happens when frost and electronics keep you locked out of your own car?